Today, I'm going to be talking about the new Dieverune Cosmetics Valentine's Day launch, the Smitten Kitten collection. First, I'm going to be doing detailed swatches where I describe each and every shade. Then I'll talk you through this makeup look and how everything applied. And then at the end, I'll give you my first impressions and thoughts. Also, hi, my name is Nupur. I love indie makeup and all things color and sparkle. Welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, I just want to note a few things. First of all, I have swatches of this full collection over on Instagram, and those are done in a slightly different setup than right here. So I feel like between those swatches and the ones that I'm going to do here, you'll be able to get a pretty well-rounded idea of what the eyeshadows look like. Second of all, I did receive this entire collection in PR, and I'm friends with the owner Monica over on Instagram, so I just want to make that clear before we start the video. I also have a code with the brand that'll help you save 10% on your order. It's just my name, Nupur. And as always, please don't feel pressured to purchase this palette just because I'm talking about how sparkly the shimmers are and things like that. I just want to give you enough information so you can make an informed purchase if that's what you wish to do. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the collection. As far as launch details go, this entire collection is already available to purchase, and I meant to get this video up earlier, but when my package came through, I only got 2 of the singles in it, so I had to wait for the other 2 to arrive to make this video. This collection consists of this palette, 4 singles, a pigment primer, and gemstones. This is the Smitten palette, which has a cute cat theme and artwork. The palette is magnetic and has 6 mattes and 6 special shimmers. It retails for $59 and you can use a code on it. Here are all of the mattes. The matte formula for most of the shades is on the thinner side, only a small amount of kick up in the pan. The 2 brighter pinks are a slightly different formula, more dry and powdery. This is probably because they are super bright and the formula is sort of in between a regular matte and a neon shade. This is something I notice with a lot of brands when they do brighter shades. Hi, it's Nupur that's filming B-roll, so the lighting is a little whack, but I wanted to tell you that I decided to do my swatches in this video a little differently than in my previous videos. So basically what I'm doing is I'm still doing the opaque swatch up here, but what I'm also doing in addition to that is taking whatever's left over on my finger and tapping it on below so that you have a more sheer swatch underneath. That way you can just get multiple looks at the shadow. And then the other thing that I have been doing in my other videos, but I haven't explicitly mentioned, is that when I'm moving my hand back and forth like this in front of the camera, I'm showing you both an in-focus shot and also an out-of-focus shot so you can see the shadow in multiple ways. Kulfi is an iridescent that shifts purple, pink, and yellow. The shift straight on seems to be a mix of pink and purple sparkles. This sets it apart from other iridescents that have similar shifts by giving it a unique tone and dimensional finish. It is super sparkly and has a particle size that smooths out easily. Love Bite has a pigmented mauve pink base with silver sparkles. The base is quite pigmented and it did not stain on me, but this could have staining potential on some people. The silver sparkles are quite textured and a little larger than the rest of the shades in the palette. The texture is actually what makes this so high shine and reflective, but you can sheer it out for a more scattered finish. Hysterical has a sheer light gray base with silvery white and blue sparkles. It is super sparkly and has a dimensional finish. It has a medium particle size and a bit of texture, but smooths out easily. The gray base is so sheer and light that on my skin tone, this shadow could function as an iridescent if I use it lightly. I don't see much of a shift to this shade, but it's still really special and wet looking. Persuasive is an iridescent with both blue and pink sparkles. The blue sparkles are a very fine particle size and don't shift much. The pink sparkles are a more medium particle size and shift gold. This makes for a super dimensional finish. If you pick up too much of the shade, it can get thick pretty fast. Catastrophe has a blue base with gold sparkles. This one also has a medium particle size that smooths out easily. It is super sparkly and reflective. I don't think there is a shift to this shade, but the gold sparkles mix with the blue base to make it look almost like a washed out green at an angle. Biscuits has a blackened base with purple, pink, and gold shifts. It has a medium particle size but smooths out easily. This one is the deepest shimmer in the palette and can't really be lightened up by shearing it out. It would be a good shade for smoky eyes. There are also 4 singles launching with the collection. Smitten retails for $10 while the rest are $14 each. Smitten has a vibrant hot pink base with sparkles that shift pink to gold, but I also see pinpricks of blue sparkle. It has a medium particle size and a bit of a drier texture. Though it is shifty, it just feels a little different from the other shades, which is probably why it is priced lower. Kitten has a very sheer light pink base with sparkles that shift pink, peach gold, and even chartreuse at the harshest angle. The base hardly shows up on my skin tone. This one has a medium particle size and smooths out easily, but it's also one that can get thick if you layer on too much. Alley Cat has a deep purple base with contrasting sparkles that shift pink, peach, gold, and also chartreuse at the harshest angle. This one has a drier, almost crumbly texture, but smooths out easily. Because the base is so deep and the sparkles are much lighter, the dimensional effect is very strong here. Stray Cat has a vibrant, mid-toned purple base with sparkles that shift orange, gold, and green. It has a very sparkly and reflective finish. This one has the most texture of them all, but still smooths out. I would be careful not to apply too much of this or it can get thick very fast. This is the Stick and Sparkle Pigment Primer. It retails for $10. This is a new product for the brand. It is a tacky primer that is meant to hold onto your shimmers and loose pigments to intensify them and keep them in place all day. I'll be demoing this in the tutorial. There are also 6 sheets of self-adhesive gems in this collection. You can purchase the light bundle or the dark bundle for $15 each, or you can purchase all 6 for $24. Okay, for the look, I think I want to do what I consider sort of my signature look, or rather, if I could only do one kind of look and I could only use one set of colors, this is what I would do every single time. And the reason I want to do it with this palette is because it has a lot of those tones. And I specifically mean these purpley tones over here. Like, I love a dusty purple in my crease and a deeper purple on the outer corner for some depth. And then I don't know if it's cheating to use a shimmer on my lid that's not in the palette, but I really, really want to use the Stray Cat single because look at that. I love having this kind of shift over dusty purples in the crease. And so I feel like Monica she made this palette for me. Also, I've had this base makeup on for a while now because my best friend came over to help me figure out the manual camera settings. And so we were doing a lot of testing, going back and forth, adjusting the lights, adjusting the settings and stuff, and looking at it on my computer. And so, you know, I'm quite an expressive person. And so all that to say, if you notice any creasing, just please look past it. I'm going to start with this dusty purple shade in my crease. I always make sure to tap off my brush pretty well to minimize fallout. And then I'm just going to slowly build this up in the crease until I get it to this depth level. I like to work in multiple layers, which is why I tend to prefer a little of a thinner and sheer matte formula so that I can properly blend it out as I'm building it up. And these kind of dusty purples are basically a neutral to me. Like, of course they aren't actually a neutral, but to me, they basically are. Like, something about the tone of it is just so pretty to me, and there's like enough contrast with it and my skin tone to where it stands out, but at the same time, it just feels at home on my face. I don't know how to explain it. This matte built up super easily, but it also blended out really easily. Like, that really didn't take me much time at all. And then I'm also running it under my lower lash line. I have to keep checking that I'm in frame because I'm not used to filming this way. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but mattes will typically apply a little more sheer on my lower lash line than on my lid anywhere, because I wear a regular eye primer on my lids, which is usually the Milani eye primer, but on my lower lash line, I just have concealer on that I set with powder, so by nature, the mattes are not going to go on as pigmented, which is fine for me because I don't like, well, I like a heavy lower lash line sometimes, but usually I just want a little bit of shadow and definition there, so it's perfectly fine for them to apply a bit more sheer on the lower lash line. Next, I'm going to take this deeper purple matte. I got eyeshadow on my sleeve. And then I'm going to put it on the outer corner over here to match this eye. I don't know if anyone has picked up on this, but I do this a lot in my short form content as well, where I will always show you the application on my right eye, but I will already have the left eye done with that step, so you can see as I'm applying it on this eye what the end goal is. I'm gonna pack it on the outer corner first at an angle like this. That's just my preferred shape, but you can obviously do this however you like. And I'm gonna blend it out bit by bit, not too much because I don't want to take it too far out. I'm a little dehydrated right now, which you wouldn't know based on this glow on my cheeks, but my eyelids have been so dry, and I just feel like that really affects how eyeshadow applies on me. Taking that first crease brush, and I'm just gonna make sure these two are blended together, and they're pretty close in color, so I don't really need to fuss with it too much. Taking a teeny tiny pencil brush, this one's from Refer, it's the number 23 brush, and I'm going to run it on the outer third of my lower lash line and join it into that outer corner area. Then taking that first slightly bigger pencil brush and just running it over everything. Everything blended out super easily, nothing stuck down or was hard to move around. Everything performed as I have come to expect from Dieverune mattes. I have their Gloomy Gardens palette, and the matte formula in this palette seems pretty consistent with that one. Now I'm going to use the Stick and Sparkle Pigment Primer and show you how it applies, but spoiler alert, I have already used this product twice now, so I'm already familiar with how it works. I don't like to go in with these type of sticky glitter glue type products directly on my lid because I'm always scared of putting too much on. So I will usually put a little bit on the back of my hand. Then I'll take a brush and I will use that product to apply it to my lid. And I usually just tap it on because, again, I don't want to disturb any of the mattes that are underneath it. I also don't like to take it all the way up my entire lid because I don't want a harsh line from where the shimmer, like that intense pigment, stops into the mattes, if that makes sense. I'm going to let that dry for just a little bit. It's a white product in the tube, but you can see that it applies clear on the lid. And I look really weird right now, but I try not to lift my eye open when I have the sticky primer on because my lids are very deep set and I don't want it to transfer up. But I'm going to take this shadow here. This is Stray Cat, and I'm going to put it all over my lid. Just going to tap that on, and this primer definitely intensifies shadows that go over it. I'm taking some of Stray Cat on the other side of this brush, the side without the pigment primer, and I'm going to put it in my corner and up through the rest of my lid. Again, doing tapping motions because I don't want to put too much pigment on. And I like to take my shimmers up into my crease a little bit because they're going to end up there anyway, and so I just like to take it with the least amount of product left on the brush and just kind of tap it over there and feather it out. This lighting setup is not the same as my swatch setup, but I still hope you can see how special the shadow is because it is so liquid metal-like and fiery and shifty. It is so impactful. Then I'm going to take this shade for the inner corner. An essential part of my signature type of looks, in addition to the inner swoop, of course, is to use a lot of contrasting cool tones and warm tones. I can't talk and do makeup at the same time. Contrasting warm and cool tones, which is why I chose this shade for the inner corner and swoop. The silver and white sparkles are beautiful juxtaposed against that warm, fiery lid shade. Here is the final look with the lip and the mascara on. I feel like you always need to do the rest of your face to get a full idea of what the look looks like. And I will have the rest of my makeup details in the description box. And here it is in different lighting and settings in all of its sparkly glory, except I changed my lip, so it's not exactly the same. But I just wanted to show you how sparkly it is. Before we get into my thoughts, I just want to emphasize that this is not a review. I need to use the collection for much more time before I can get a well-rounded opinion on it, and today it's going to be more of my first impressions and thoughts. So first of all, I really do enjoy the color story. I love Valentine's Day themed collections and merchandise, and I think this palette really fits the bill for Valentine's Day, but also, my God, does Monica know how to do a color story, because I feel like with her having been a creator in the indie space for so long and also a consumer, she really knows what the people want and she gives it to them. I do like the variety of matte tones because Of course, for Valentine's Day, we see a lot of pink, but usually I feel like it's paired with red, and so I'm happy to see it paired with purple over here, which I'll never complain about. But I also like that there's a gray here just for some variety, and I think it adds a nice contrast to the palette. For my personal preference, I wish that we didn't have both of these two bright pinks in the palette, and I wish one of them had been a deeper pink, because when you look at the palette, the only deep shade that we have is this deep purple up here. And so, yes, the two pinks are different tones, but I just think that having one of them be a deeper pink would have added more versatility to the palette. Shimmer-wise, the brand always knocks it out of the park, and this palette is no exception. You saw the swatches, you saw what they look like. They are so pretty. I especially like that within the 6 shimmers, there's a good variety of just regular sparkly shades, duochromes, fully true multichromes, as well as shades with multicolored sparkles in them for a dimensional finish, which I love to see. And I hope that the brand continues to do more of those. Also, I just want to note that Dieverune doesn't actually have a lot of palettes right now, at least ones that have both mattes and shimmers, so there's nothing in their existing lineup that this palette is super similar to. I love that the brand is continuing to offer single shadows because all of these were so pretty, and I also really like that they come in compacts because I know that not everyone likes having a bunch of empty magnetic palettes, and so I like that you can keep them in the compacts, but these are magnetic so you can take out the shades, and since the palette itself is also magnetic, I like that you can swap out some of the shades for these if you want to. Next, I want to talk about the pigment primer, which I've used 3 times, including today, and it definitely does what it says it's supposed to do, which is to hold on to your shadows and make them last all day. One of the times that I wore this, I wore it for about 8 hours, and my shadow was just as intense at the end as it was from the beginning, but I will put a disclaimer and say that I don't usually struggle with longevity with my eyeshadows, so take that with a grain of salt. This is also meant to intensify your shimmers, which it definitely does that because you could see when I applied Stray Cat over it today, it built up to a super reflective metallic finish. It looks like liquid metal on my eyes right now, which is a super cool effect, but it's not something I always want because sometimes I want my shimmers to be a bit more of a twinkly, scattered, sparkly finish instead of like a super reflective finish, but on the days that I do want the super built up reflective finish, I would definitely use something like this. I will say though that using a tacky primer by nature will make your multichromes look more shifty on your eyes because it's gripping onto those pigments and making them more intense. So the shifts are going to show up much more clearly than if you were to put a more sheer layer on. I just realized that I didn't actually use any of the gems in my look today, and I think that's just because I'm not much of a gem person for my day-to-day. I enjoy them for events and like going out and stuff like that, but just personally, I don't really gravitate towards them for my day-to-day. I do enjoy that they are self-adhesive because in the past I've used loose gems and I have to use eyelash glue to apply those, which I don't wear false eyelashes, so I don't usually have a tube lying around, and usually it dries out before I can even use a fraction of it, so it feels a little wasteful for me to keep eyelash glue on hand. So I do enjoy that these are self-adhesive. That being said, because I haven't worn them for lengthy periods of time, I don't actually know how powerful they are, like the stickiness, and so that's something that I would have to test and get back to you about. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me if you made it to the end of this video, and if you did make it till the end, let me know what you thought about this collection or if you picked anything up since it is already available. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it and consider subscribing if you enjoy makeup content like this because I think I've settled on a twice-a-week upload schedule on Tuesdays and Fridays, and I plan to be doing all sorts of videos from collection overviews like this to get ready with me's and tutorials to ranking videos and favorites and things like that. And also, if you have suggestions for any kind of content, I'm very open to that. Please leave me a comment with what you would like to see from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Dieverune doesn't actually have a ton of planets.